Welcome to Midnight Paralysis. Enter if you dare. So, I used to work a night shift at a small hotel, and this happened about a year ago. And I still think about it all the time because it genuinely freaked me out so bad. And I don't know what the guy's plan was, or what he was trying to do. And it honestly makes me feel sick when I remember just how long he was there, and that I didn't even realize he wasn't supposed to be there. The hotel was small, only 3 floors and maybe 40 rooms total. It wasn't a busy place. Usually we only had about 10 or 15 rooms filled on weeknights. I worked on 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. It was usually Ray Boy and Quai finding me. I sit by our desk, do some work, sort of tip cans, sometimes watch you do my hand or really dad. Alone within Ben, does a downstairs at of the film TV, vending machine well. Behind the desk was a little office where I had a computer and a chair and a glass window so I could see the lobby while I sat in there. At night, the front doors locked automatically, so guests had to buzz in, and I would press a button to let them through. Usually nothing happened after midnight except the occasional guest coming in late. One night, X-Men came in late 11, and everything about it makes my stomach drop when I think about it. He pressed the door and let him in. He looked mid-40s, tall, kind of skinny, but not too skinny. He was wearing jeans and a baseball cap, carrying a backpack. He looked up to the back's car. I told him yes and gave a price. He knew it was all card. I swiped, went through. He Kika, 4 into 14, second floor. Naughty looked at me for a second too long till I left. He had this kind of blank expression, and his eyes stayed on me for maybe 3 or 4 seconds after I handed him the key. Then he turned and walked off toward the elevator. Nothing about it seemed dangerous right away, but it was enough to make me notice him. After that, I sat back in the chair and played on my phone for a while. Around midnight, I looked up and he was back in the lobby. He would come to the desk and was back at passing me sat in the lobby with the cutters. The TV wasn't on, but he just sat down facing it. Fake at me say something. Sankoser Lorfentines seemed to we had just did just send doing nothing. He wasn't form we. He was even doesn't off. He just stayed had to dang screen. A gunbone fish fell off from vending machine. Walked across the lobby. I felt him turn his head and watch me the whole way. And directly, his back pen desk gave me really uneasy feeling. Wrong way. I was checking the reservation system computer I bought, and left my loss on me. I built at the occupant whom is then sold known to watching the hands. Under my breath and double checks, because I literally just checked this guy in an hour earlier. I thought maybe I made a mistake, so I looked at the check-in logs, and there was nothing for him. No name, no charge, nothing. And the winds for John Sargent's cringe and that charge card gone through. That showed no pains. I remember thinking, viewed as a straw, his swipe has caught and beat like a witch, but there was nothing in the system at all. That's when I picked up the phone and called room 214. Ring like 10 times, but no answer. I took the key card and she rang. Says if I do, and it showed nothing. No one entered the room. That's when I arrived and I went to the room that I gave in the corner. I looked over into the lounge, and I was stood storing a TV way on. It started 4:15 twist. I sat there debating what to do. Part of me thought, the system was glad. No like no chart, maybe shut in. I went that in to hoarding. Around 1:30, I walked over to hurting hockey. He turned his head and rotten with no expression, and he told me he just couldn't sleep. They turned it to the TV, and I by my desk, my hand shaking. Around 2, I noticed he wasn't sitting in the lounge anymore. My stomach jerked right in my seemed Sanjay standing low afterwards, a dork. Stanley Sue. I could land heap, turning to win you. He stood up for a while, and then slowly went on in the lounge again, and he owned. I called my nose in the floor. She sounded tired and told me to just keep an eye on him and call the police if he did anything threatening. I remember hanging up and thinking that it already felt threatening, but I didn't know what else to do. I checked the security cameras after that. I saw him on the first floor hallway camera. He worked all the way down the hall, slowed at the end, stood there for several minutes, and walked back. Later he went to the stairwell, staying for 10 minutes. I don't know what he's doing there. Every time I looked up from the computer, he was somewhere else, near the vending machines or by the elevators. Once just standing near the corner of the lobby where the light didn't hit well, with the light standing. With really, I couldn't hit it all. So I called a non-emergency police line to bring to the main hotel. Didn't think it was a guest. Said they'd send somewhere. Oh, I was waiting. I noticed him routine. This time closer to the desk. He was standing maybe 15 feet away, just watching me. He didn't much, didn't me. Stared hysterical. I pretended to touch something you. So scandical, he breathed. 350, I was running. Maybe with a couple, I was just another guest from Bethlehem. We managed and watched against what chased. I noticed his eyes follow him the whole way across the lobby. That scared me even more, because it was like he was studying him. A few minutes later, the man disappeared again. I checked the cameras and saw him standing outside one of the guest room doors on the first floor, like he was literally just standing there. So that's when I called actual 911. I told any of lads when guests rule and I didn't know what I was trying to do. They said officers were on the one. I kept my eyes glued on the camera feed, and he just stood at the door for about 3 minutes, then slowly walked back to the lobby. Came back to lock the way out to the dock this time. The cam. He looked at me, and then flew. Destroying. I told him the vendor machine in the corner. He gave a small smile and walked away. Like a sort of stood at the clock, begging God to get there. Finally, around 4:10, 2 officers showed up. I lit them in and pointed right at him. He was back in the lounge, sitting down. They walked over and talked to him for a few minutes. Asked for his ID and there's some questions to come here. And they walked him out. One of the officers came back and the guy wasn't a guest at all. The credit card he was stole, no bag to reservation. He happened to tenant to get access to the building. They charged him with trespassing and the stolen card. They left as a shaken to miss at the hole. Each time that comes, a heck of the scene again. To put them as yet the most really they side out of a house. 1-in-1, staying outside guest rooms, watching you from the first spots, and who's now supposed to be there. I've no idea what it was, and no was it good. That was the scariest night of my life.